part that got me was in this report. Rap Sheet talks about how his development is happening every day, and while we had a long way to go upon arriving as a fifth-round draft pick from Colorado, Sanders has worked and he learned. They're trying to rewrite that initial narrative that was out there that basically Shedeur is wasting everyone's time. And the only part that gets me a little angry is that you took a quarterback in the fifth round. You're going to tell everyone that he's just a fifth-round quarterback, and you're going to then try to get all the credit for how he looks once he plays. That's the part that bothers me the most.
You ain't about to get all the credit. Look, what I'm saying is, if you're going to put out these narratives, when you were forced to draft Shedeur, and you don't want him, now you want to paint the picture because you had to get rid of Joe Flacco earlier. Now Dylan Gabriel done came out. He ain't playing up to par, or you think he gonna level up. The potential ain't as high as you think. Now that you got all these fans and all these people with all this Shedeur talk and all these jerseys you done sold and all these new fans you done got because of Shedeur, now you want to start changing the narrative so it look like you the hero when you actually was the zero.
The Browns are playing a dangerous game, folks. One week, they're pushing the "he's not ready" narrative. The next week, they're feeding reporters exclusive updates about Shedeur's development. But after that heartbreaking 17-21 loss to the Minnesota Vikings, something snapped in Cleveland. The fan base is restless, the locker room's divided, and suddenly the team that kept Shedeur Sanders on the sideline might be ready to hand him the keys. But let's be real, this isn't about development. This is about damage control. Because when Ian Rappaport drops a report that says the Browns are preparing for Shedeur to play at some point this season, you can bet that leak didn't come from Shedeur's camp. That came straight from Berea, from the Browns front office itself. And fans instantly knew it. They saw the spin. They saw the manipulation. The same organization that mocked his confidence after Mimegate, that ridiculous moment where Shedeur pantomimed talking instead of answering questions about Dylan Gabriel, is now trying to make it sound like that was just a miscommunication. They're saying, oh, it was a message that got lost in translation. Lost in translation? What got lost was their credibility. And the funniest part? Shedeur might have actually taken them literally. The Browns told him, don't say a word about this. So he didn't. He mimed it. He made it funny. But instead of laughing, the media tore him apart. They called him immature. They called him unserious. Now, months later, that same media is suddenly praising him for showing maturity and developing daily. So let's call it what it is. The Browns are trying to rewrite their own history, and fans aren't letting that slide. See, this is what happens when you play both sides. You can't tear down a player for months, then suddenly act like you were building him up all along. You can't spend an entire summer saying he's just a fifth-round project, and then try to take credit when he shines. Because make no mistake, Shedeur Sanders is coming. And when he hits that field, all those same voices that said, he's not ready, are gonna act like they knew it all along. But here's the twist. Cleveland's not doing this out of belief. They're doing it out of fear. Fear of losing games. Fear of losing the locker room. Fear of losing their jobs. And after that 17-21 loss to the Vikings, a game they should have won, the pressure's boiling. Fans are chanting for change. And guess whose name they're chanting? Shedeur Sanders. You can't bury a star, then dig him up and call yourself the one who found him. That's not development, that's desperation. Let me ask you something, Browns fans. Do you honestly believe this organization suddenly had a change of heart? Do you believe the same people who mocked Shedeur's confidence are now impressed with his progress? Or is this just another spin, another leak, another save-face moment from a team that can't get out of its own way? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Because from where I'm sitting, this new report sounds more like a PR stunt than player development. And even analysts are calling it out. One host said, every part of this screamed Browns leak. It wasn't the agent. It wasn't Shedeur. It wasn't Dion. It was the Browns trying to calm the storm. And what's wild is how often these things backfire. The Browns leak a story trying to look smart, and it ends up blowing up in their face. Like the time they tried to tell fans, be patient, we'll play your guy soon. Fans didn't want patience. They wanted performance. Because when you're 1-4, patience runs out quick. And now, the word on the street is that even Rex Ryan, yeah, the same Rex who was once skeptical, has changed his mind. He's now in favor of starting Shedeur Sanders. Rex went from "he's not ready" to "this kid gives them the best shot to win." Think about that. A man who's built a career on defensive discipline, on skepticism, on calling out hype, is now publicly backing Shedeur Sanders. That tells you everything.
The Browns are trying to rewrite the story they started. After months of pushing Shedeur's not ready narrative, a new report just flipped the script, and fans are wondering what changed.
Shedeur Sanders, where it started with Ian Rappaport, a big kind of exclusive saying that the Browns are preparing for Shedeur to play at some point this year. I just quickly want to touch on the Mimegate thing, where I still think it's the most overplayed, ridiculous story, and the reaction to it on both sides were crazy to me. Like, there was just nothing measured about that conversation. It was just a lot of people yelling at each other online. The funniest conspiracy theory I had about it, though, was that Shedeur was taking the Browns literally. That the Browns told Shedeur, "We don't want you talking about this. Just say no comment, or just say I'm happy for Dylan," and then that maybe he took them literally. So here's the verbiage in the Ian Rappaport piece. Sources say Sanders had a discussion with team officials that his approach to the media session was a message that got lost in translation. So basically, they said, "Don't say a word about it." And he's like, "I don't know how to do that. I'm going to pantomime talking." How can we not? That's funny. That is very, very funny.
It's funny. It's also funny.
Let's rewind for a second. This whole thing started because the Browns themselves fed the post-draft narrative that Dillon Gabriel was more NFL ready. They said Shedeur was a long-term project. They said he needed to learn the playbook, develop slowly, adjust to the system. Meanwhile, Dillon Gabriel, their so-called ready-to-play guy, has looked shaky, inconsistent. And last week against Minnesota, he looked lost. The same fans who booed Shedeur's pick are now calling for his debut. And now the Browns front office is panicking. They can feel the shift. They can feel the fan base turning. So what do? They leak a positive report. They say, "Shedeur's developing beautifully." They float the idea that he's getting closer. They try to look like the heroes in a story where they were always the villains. It's like that meme. You shoot the guy, then act shocked like, "Who could have done this?" That's exactly what the Browns are doing. You don't get to rewrite history when you're the one who wrote the lie in the first place. They made the not ready narrative. They spread it. They amplified it. And now that Shedeur's progress is undeniable, they're trying to act like it was all part of the plan. But here's the reality. The only plan in Cleveland right now is survival. Kevin Stefanski knows his seat's hot. 6 years in 1-4 record. And now the same media that once praised him is questioning whether he's lost the locker room. And if things keep spiraling, he's gonna do what every desperate coach does, throw in the rookie. Because when your back's against the wall, the rookie quarterback is the last card you've got left. And for Stefanski, that rookie card is Shedeur Sanders. The irony? He's the same coach who kept him on the bench for developmental reasons. The same coach who said Dillon Gabriel gave them the best chance to win. Now he's about to need the same rookie to save his job. And that's the story Cleveland doesn't want to tell, because it exposes everything. They didn't believe in Shedeur. They just need him now. Let me ask you this. Do you think Shedeur's debut will be about giving him a fair shot or saving Stefanski's season? Because when you listen to the tone of that Rappaport report, it doesn't sound like belief. It sounds like panic management. When a team's story changes overnight, it's not because they found faith, it's because they ran out of excuses. And as all this unfolds, one thing's becoming clear. Shedeur Sanders isn't just fighting for a starting job. He's fighting for his own narrative. Because when the Browns say, "We're preparing him to play," what they really mean is, "We're preparing our apology." So let's talk about what's really going on inside Cleveland. Because this new report about Shedeur's progress isn't just about football. It's about survival, reputation, and saving face. The Browns front office wants you to believe that they've been developing Shedeur behind the scenes. But if that's true, Why was their messaging all over the place? Why did they push the "he's not ready" line for months, only to suddenly say he's progressing faster than expected? It's simple. They realized the narrative was slipping away from them. Fans aren't stupid. They can see through it. When Dillon Gabriel was struggling, when the offense stalled again and again, and when Cleveland fell to 1-4 after losing 17-21 to the Vikings, the patience ran out. The chants got louder. The cameras caught it in the stands. Start Shedeur. Free Shad. That's when this new report magically appeared. And now every analyst in the country is asking the same question. Is this the Browns trying to rewrite history? Because let's remember, this is the same team that told us Dillon Gabriel was miles ahead. That he was the smart choice. That Shedeur needed time. Now suddenly, they're telling Ian Rappaport, he's learning fast, he's impressing in practice, his command is growing daily. And if you listen closely, you can hear the spin. They're not celebrating Shedeur. They're protecting themselves. They're setting up the story so that when Shedeur finally plays well, they can take the credit. They'll say, see? We developed him. We were right to be patient. You weren't patient. You were paranoid. Think about that for a second. If Shedeur Sanders steps onto that field and delivers, if he brings energy, poise, and wins, the narrative flips overnight. The same front office that ignored him will take the victory lap. They'll pretend they always believed. But the fans? They remember. They remember the leaks. They remember the shade. They remember when the Browns tried to make it sound like Dillon Gabriel was in a different league. They remember when analysts said Shedeur needed to learn Mandarin to understand the playbook. They remember when local radio hosts said he wasn't mentally ready. And now, suddenly, these same people are tweeting that he fits Kevin Stefanski's system perfectly. Where was that energy 3 months ago? When the truth finally walks into the room, every liar pretends they were just misunderstood. And speaking of Stefanski, this man is on the thinnest ice of his career. 6 years in Cleveland, 1 playoff run, and now a 1-4 start with a roster that was supposed to be competitive. Fans are tired of the same conservative play calling. They're tired of excuses. And most of all, they're tired of the quarterback shuffle. The front office says Dillon Gabriel isn't the problem, but the film doesn't lie. Bad reads, missed throws, no rhythm. And still, Stefanski keeps backing him up publicly, while quietly letting Rappaport float the Shedeur story to calm fans down. It's a classic Browns move. Leak hope, not solutions. But there's another layer to this, one that's even messy. Because if Shedeur does get his shot, it won't just be about winning games. It'll be about who gets the credit for saving the season. Will it be Stefanski? Will it be GM Andrew Berry? Or will the fans finally recognize that Shedeur's been ready this whole time, they just refused to see it? And you gotta laugh at the irony. The Browns tried to suppress his personality, tried to control the media narrative, tried to keep him quiet, and now his very presence is the only thing keeping this franchise interesting. The same man they tried to silence is now the voice of Cleveland's future. Let's not forget, this team was forced to draft him. They didn't want to. They had to. The fans pushed for it, the moment demanded it, and when they realized Dillon Gabriel's ceiling wasn't what they thought, suddenly, Shedeur became their backup plan turned headline act. And now, after all that, they want to act like they discovered him. One of the most passionate Browns analysts said it best. They don't get to be the hero now. They were the zero. The hero came to them by accident. That's exactly right. Because when Shedeur finally steps on that field, and he will, he's not saving Kevin Stefanski's job. He's saving Cleveland's pride. But let's be real, that might not even be enough to save Stefanski. Because the locker room's starting to fracture. You can feel it. Players are starting to question the leadership. Some are quietly siding with Shedeur, believing he's got the poise and confidence this team needs. Others are wondering how long this experiment with Dillon can last before the season's gone for good. So let's put the question to you. Do you think Kevin Stefanski deserves another chance to lead Shedeur's debut, or has his time in Cleveland already run out? Because it's starting to feel like the Browns are setting up their next scapegoat. In Cleveland, it's never about who wins, it's about who gets blamed when they don't. And here's the kicker. If Shedeur plays well, they'll call it great coaching. If he struggles, they'll say he wasn't ready. Either way, the front office keeps their hands clean. That's why this whole rewriting the narrative move is so slick and so dangerous. Because when you manipulate a story long enough, eventually the truth bites back. And right now, the truth is Shedeur Sanders looks more ready, more composed, and more hungry than the man starting in front of him. Even Rex Ryan, who's built his reputation on calling out hype trains, now says Shedeur should start. He said flat out that Shedeur's skill set gives Cleveland the best shot to win. And when Rex Ryan, a defensive coach known for his skepticism, flips his stance like that, you know something real is happening. This isn't hype anymore. This is momentum. Because at the end of the day, Shedeur isn't fighting Dylan Gabriel. He's fighting the Cleveland Browns narrative machine. And every throw he makes in practice, every report that leaks, every chant from the stands, it's another crack in that old narrative wall they built to hold him back. You can delay destiny, but you can't delete it. So when Shedeur Sanders finally steps under center, when that stadium erupts, when the cameras cut to Stefanski clapping nervously on the sideline, remember this moment. Because it was never about if, it was always about when. Cleveland can't hide the truth forever. And this new report, this sudden positivity, isn't the start of something new. It's the admission of guilt. Because deep down, they know what we all know, that Shedeur Sanders was never the problem. He was always the plan. And maybe, just maybe, when he finally gets his shot, the Browns won't just be rewriting a narrative, they'll be rewriting their future. They tried to write him off, but now he's about to write the story himself. So tell me, Gridiron family, do you believe the Browns are finally seeing the light, or are they just trying to save face before Shedeur saves the season? Drop your take in the comments below, and don't hold back, because this story's only getting hotter. And if you're riding with Shedeur Sanders, if you've been saying from day one that he's the guy, make sure you hit that like button, smash subscribe, and turn on notifications, because here on Gridiron Insights, we'll be right here breaking every twist, every leak, and every Shedeur snap that proves the doubters wrong. This is Gridiron Insights. And remember, you can rewrite a report, but you can't rewrite the truth.